put it on your iPod. You can download from Google Video for your iPod. So it's one way to do it. A lot of universities are doing this. I go on iTunes University and the iTunes Store, and they have dozens and dozens of lectures from Berkeley and other places. The downside of it is that they're not highly edited, so they're like this. You know, people talking about, okay, what's our assignment this week and all that stuff. The upside is you get to hear professors from Berkeley and stuff, so whatever. So we'll get on board and do the work. All right, I am Dr. Bakelar, for those of you who are new to me, and I have a syllabus that, I don't know if you printed it out. Did you get the email? How many of you got the email I sent around? Okay, I used Blackboard, and I sent, you got it?
I just checked Blackboard, I didn't get an email.
Well, that's going to be interesting then, because I sent everybody in both classes an email from Blackboard, and half of the undergraduate course got it, none of you got it, right? It's a double page, 2 pages. No, it's the same as that, if you printed it out. So yeah, so this is up on Blackboard. It is available in Word and PDF form. So you can, whatever you want to do. You're actually going to need the Word form because you're doing a project that involves connecting with a professional organization or a business. So I've drafted a sample letter for you to use. And you might want to just, pull that out and edit it up and then send it out. So there we go. I'm Dr. Bakelar. I have been teaching here at Montclair since 1992 in various capacities. Adjuncting, visiting specialist, full-time temporary, done a lot of things here. My particular specialty focus is organizational communication, and particular systems approaches to organizational communication. But my degree is from Temple University. I have my doctorate from Temple University in rhetorical studies. So I was particularly interested in questions of how public issues, moral issues, get debated in public settings. And so I did my research on that. And can you tell me your name?
Laura Cassidy.
Okay. So anyway, I did my doctorate at Temple. And any of you who are thinking of going on for doctoral studies, I'd encourage you to do it. Temple is favorable to the working student. I did mine over 7 years on a part-time basis. So, you can do this while you're working full-time. That's what I've done. I've taught this course a number of times, all the way from having 2 students to having 28 students in this class. And so this is a nice size class. So you guys are really good shape. It's not, I remember when I used to have the 2 students, they were really kind of petrified, because you couldn't hide anywhere. There was nowhere to hide, Who am I going to call on, you or you, But they survived, and then one of them's going on for doctoral work, so that's good. Just a little bit about me. I have 3 grown children. My oldest son is at Rutgers doing his master's in information science. He's getting married in May. They're very exciting. And so he works for Rutgers and is doing his master's there. My daughter went to USC in Los Angeles. She graduated there. She's married now. She just moved to Salt Lake City, Utah. Got a job offer and moved with her husband to Salt Lake City, Utah. So I'm going to go out there sometime, see her. And my youngest boy is at Arizona State, where he works for the university, which then pays his tuition while he studies landscaping. So he works for them doing landscaping while he's studying landscaping. So that's where I'm at. I live in Manahawkin, down South Jersey. And so I'm really only up here on Tuesdays. I come up on Tuesday, I teach from 2:30 till 8, and then I go home. So if you want office hours or whatever, you need to talk to me and I'll come early. I prefer to come early. But I do a lot of text messaging. I do a lot of email. I can do video chat. If you're up for video chat, I can do that. So I'm accessible, fairly accessible. So on the thing, you see my cell phone there. I do prefer text messages to calls. If you can text, it works better for me. I will often get text messages from a student sitting at a computer in the library with EBSCO up saying, I can't find any articles that are about my topic. And I say, well, try this search term, So that works pretty good. So I can usually solve problems pretty quickly. And I'll get to know who you are. In a grad course especially, it's important that we figure out who we are and how we're going to work together. So Theories of Human Communication is a key course for the graduate curriculum. It's kind of a core course. How many of you is this your first semester in the program? Okay. So remind me of that every so often, because this is pushing it. Because theories, depending on your background, can be a very demanding kind of a course, especially at the graduate level. At undergraduate, you had said you had looked at this book before, right? This is a little more user-friendly than Little John and Craig. Little John and Craig are graduate level texts. They'll push you with the language and a lot of new vocabulary for you. So I'll try to make that as simple, as easy for you as I can. So we provide the student with an overview of how communication is conceptualized by researchers. So we all have ordinary ways of talking about communication, but in communication studies and in research, we have very particular ways that we think about communication. We have a language, we have terminologies that are standard within the field. So this is part of your induction into a field of study. You learn new language, you learn the road, the map, how the field goes, and comm theory is a really important part of that. And it develops the ability to use perspectives in analysis and application. So what we will do is to practice different ways of thinking about and describing communication events. So there will be some event. Let's take a work situation where the manager is correcting a worker, right? Somebody has done something wrong, the manager is correcting them. Well, we'll take that event, for instance, and we'll look at it from a number of different perspectives. In fact, we'll look at it from 7 different perspectives. The way we're structured in this book is we'll try to learn 7 different traditions for doing analysis of communication events. And what we hope to do is to give you all a toolbox of conceptual equipment, so that you can look at a problem and say, all right, here's a communication event. I'm going to have to do something with this. I'm going to have to try to understand what's going on, explain it. I'm going to have to try to change it in some way. What have I got in my toolbox for making sense of this? What have I got available to me to do it? And you say, well, I could try this, or I could try this, or I could try that, or I could try this, or that. So we want you to have a variety of perspectives to work with. And we want to try to move you beyond something called the law of the hammer, which is the idea that if you get one favorite thing, you try to use it for everything. So it's like the idea is if you give a child a hammer, everything becomes a nail. It doesn't matter what it is, it's a nail. Bang, 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 I'm going to bang it, everything. So the idea here is if you come through communication studies and you have media theories, or you have cultivation theory or speech act theory, and you try to apply that to everything you come across, you're crippling yourself, because you're not using a variety of tools. One tool may be better for describing that situation and for amending that situation. So in a sense, what we're trying to do is empower you. We're trying to give you power to be able to work with the situations that you encounter in your professional life. Right. What's that?
Did you find a cell phone?
I did not find a cell phone, and I've been in here the whole time. So if you don't find it, it's... No, sorry. Okay. So is to equip you. So for instance, take this. How many of you have ever talked on a telephone? Okay, or a cell phone, the case may be, right? So you know how to use a cell phone. But what happens if the cell phone stops working? Then you're stuck. You go to the store and whatever. But if you were a person who had the tools, the equipment, the knowledge, if you understood what a cell phone is, if you understood how cells work, and you would know what to do. You would say, all right, this has stopped working, but since I understand the waves and the cell towers and the areas, I will do this. And now I'm back in business. So your knowledge, your understanding gives you power. So you're not left to just a situation where, well, I know how to turn it on and I know how to open it, and it's not working, I can't do anything. It's the same way with cars. You know, if some of you were auto mechanic inclined, you know, you'd have a bunch of tools, and you understand what's going on with the car, so you know that for this job I need this wrench and I need this meter, and I can fix it. I have power to keep things going. So some of you are in PR. Who's in PR here? Okay, all right. So not as many as some. How many org comm? All right, we got some org comm, and then what's left? Speech comm? Is that speech? General speech comm. All right. So PR. Let's take your PR thing. Some people conduct their PR practice on the basis of a rule book. That when this happens, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 steps that you follow. And those are often based on other people's experience, and then you follow them. Well, what happens if they don't work? What happens if you get halfway through that and it's not doing what it's supposed to do? Well, you don't know what to do because you don't have any understanding beyond that. You have one tool, you use it, it doesn't work, you're stuck. So our goal is to fill up your toolbox with all kinds of things so that maybe your job says, well, you do these 5 things, you do 3 of them, it's not working, you step back and you say, all right, what else is in my toolbox that would explain what's going on here so that I can change this? So we're trying to give you a conceptual toolbox so that you're not just following a technique, but that you understand and you can be creative about solving problems. So that's part of what we're about. So perspectives and analysis and application. The word analysis, of course, means to break something down. And that's part of a lot of our theories, is to break it down into small parts and talk about each part. Especially when we get to speech act theory, we'll talk about what kind of a word was that anyway. And so it's a core course that supports the student's ability to participate in the academic community. So if you're going to be part of the NC or SCA, what is it now? National Communication Association, or the International Communication Association, if you're going to be part of any professional organization in communication studies, you need to have theories. Because it's all about, well, what are the theories you're working from? What's the theoretical basis for your work? So it's just part of the rite of passage of a field that you have theories to work with. And so it'll prepare you to participate in the field, and it will prepare you for comprehensive exams. All of you will take at the end of or towards the end of your graduate life, maybe the end of your life, I don't know, will take comprehensive exams. And those are just a set of 3 questions that you negotiate with faculty, and then you write on them, and then you defend them. So it's modeled after the doctoral defense, but it's a little step down, lower. And one of those questions will be a theory question. So I will be writing for you a theory question at some point in your future. And that will grow out of our experience here together in this course. So I'll know that you're interested in these theories, and you did a report on this, and I'll write your theory question to reflect that. But that'll be important. Who has seen comps take place? Has anybody gone to comps? Any?
The intro class has to go at the end of the semester.
What's that?
The
Intro class.
Yeah, we have to go at the end of the semester.
Right. Yes. Yeah, okay. Students don't look forward to it. But from the faculty perspective, it's just a learning time for all of us. So we don't get all tight about it. But you shouldn't either. So anyway, this will help prepare you for comps. So be thinking about that. This is one of the things that we don't do here, just as a little aside. When I was at Temple, we had colloquia, which was where every week the graduate school students and all the faculty would meet, and someone would present something. And we'd talk about it for about 2 or 3 hours. That was really nice, because you got to hear faculty together interacting, which right now you don't hear each individually. But when you put 4 or 5 of them together in a room and they start arguing with each other, it's really interesting, So I learned a lot from that. So comps is the closest thing we have to a colloquia. So it's a good experience. All right, so the student will be able to identify key perspectives and traditions in the study of communication. We will be following a scheme of the field of communication that was developed by Bob Craig, who is a former president of the, I think, a National Communication Association, and who's a professor at Boulder, University of Colorado, Boulder. But he's a very well-known person in the field of communication studies. My little name-dropping story with Bob Craig is that he interviewed me to come into Temple's doctoral program. And as soon as I got accepted, he left to go to Boulder. So I met him once, But so anyway, we're going to use Bob Craig's scheme of 7 traditions. Those of you who've done M. Griffin's book will know that M. Griffin has 8 traditions. He adds a tradition called the ethical tradition to it, and we'll just talk about that a little bit. So key perspectives and traditions. You will be able to speak in depth about a particular theory or theorist. So you will want to be finding some theory or theorist that becomes yours. You're like the little specialist on that. So as we go through this, begin to find a theory or a theorist that you say, this is the one that I'm going to kind of focus on and learn. When I was doing my doctoral work, there were so many interesting things going on. And my dissertation committee said to me, look, you've got to pick one theory and apply it. So, I did. And so now I have a specialty in one theorist and one theory that I can use. But
so we know not to pick it.
it's not in this text. I used William Gamson's theory of interpretive communities. Whatever that is. So William Gamson is a professor up in Boston, has a theory about how people create issue cultures around issues, that they talk in certain ways. There are clusters of ways people talk about things. And the media helps support that. So I did an analysis of 8 years of a controversy in the news, public national media for 8 years, from 1986 to 1994. I looked at 112 articles that I broke into 848 separate units. And I categorized them all. I analyzed them on charts and graphs. And then I made conclusions about it. So that's what I did. And I know how to do this now, let me tell you, after doing it for that much work, Yeah, and so what I found out was that people reflect the way news talks about things, people talk about it that way, and that there are clusters of things that people use, arguments, that tend to be part of different groups within the argumentative culture. And that news always takes, if this is the field of an argument, and these are all the possible positions you can take, the news flattens that to a line. And if there are 5 groups, the news cuts these off, cuts this one off, and depicts the story as between the status quo and a challenger. And so out of the richness of the reality of what's going on, the news depicts it this way, which then feeds back into the way people talk about it, which tends to polarize and remove the possibility for middle grounds in social life. So it's in some sense, it's a critical theory of the way news affects the possibilities for public life. Yeah. So, yeah. But after I finished it, I didn't want to look at it for 4 years. I was so tired of it. But anyway, yeah, so you should find something that you become really good in. And I'll build your comp question around that. So then you'll be all ready, really. You can almost write your comp question at the end of this course. In fact, your final exam is a mock comp question. So if it actually appears in your comps too, that would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? But it's possible. So, all right. So you're going to speak in depth about a particular theory or theorist. You're going to apply knowledge of theory to communication problems of interest. So part of what we're going to be doing in the class is asking you for communication problems of interest. So whatever field you're in, or whatever thing you're concerned about, we'll talk about that. So for instance, last year I had a student in comm theory who was really into activism and advocacy. And so she chose to use theories that related to how you create social change, which was nice. So we talked a lot about those things. I had other students who were in PR, and they wanted to talk about PR crises in the New York Public Library and stuff, so we applied theory to that. So hopefully you'll bring stuff that we'll use in our conversations here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does it have to be with like what our for this class, like what our major is? Like, let's say someone who's in like word comm comes in with a really good topic, and you like that topic too. Can you?
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I'm just trying to help you.
Get ready for that comp.
Well, not just get ready for the comps, but also target your graduate program a little bit. If depending on how you find comm studies. I think comm studies, for my doctorate, for instance, I had about this much stuff that I looked at and worked on, and about this much of it ended up in my doctorate. So because it's fascinating, all this stuff in the field, interesting things. So yeah, so you can go and talk about other things. But at some point, you're probably going to need to, if you want to go into PR, you ought to be applying it to some PR issues. Good. What's your name?
Joseph Jamara.
Joseph Jamara. Oh, there you go. Okay. Actually on my list. So. Good. All right, so here's the syllabus. You're going to identify key articles and research relating to your own research interest. So how many of you are understanding about peer-reviewed journals, EBSCO, full-text searches? Does that ring bells for you? Okay, some of you are going to need to work on that. Yeah, okay. So we're going to have to go over what peer-reviewed journals are and how to find them. See, within the field of communication studies, we work with material that is peer-reviewed, which means that it has been, before it's published, it has been read, critiqued, and corrected by respected leaders in the field. So we don't take stuff from Time magazine, we don't take stuff from Newsweek, we don't take stuff from U.S. News and World Report. I mean, you can use that for other things. Even Wikipedia doesn't work so good. I use it all the time to orient myself. but after that you got to get into the real stuff. And so peer-reviewed stuff will come up on EBSCO. As you search, you check the box that says peer-reviewed, and unless you're ready to go to Rutgers and look in the stacks, you check the box that says full text, and then you get articles. I mean, when I was in school, we didn't have that, so we had to go to Rutgers and mess around in the stacks and find the articles, you know. So, but you're going to learn to use that literature, which is the accepted literature in the field, and find articles relating to your thing. And become prepared for comprehensive exams. So that's where we're about here this semester. And like I said, this should be a good semester. Nice sized class. We'll be able to talk a lot, interact. It should be meaningful for you. That'd be good. Do you have any questions before I go on? Thoughts or questions? All right. We're using 2 texts for this class. This is brand new. This is like first edition, just came out. This is by Bob Craig and one of his students at Boulder, I believe, called Theorizing Communication. And so what he has done is gotten you primary source readings. So that means last year I had the students read a lot of journal articles to get familiar with the theories. This year we're not reading any journal articles except maybe a couple that you pick for yourself. We're working our way through this book. Not everything in it, but close to everything in it. And primary source readings, anybody want to explain what primary source means? Because this is secondary source. So, go ahead. All right.
I was going to say, I mean, could you say that you use the example of Wikipedia? Wikipedia draws its information from primary sources, which now they post the links to at the bottom of the article.
Right.
And those would be the primary sources?
It's possible. So here's the way this would work. For instance, there's a theory called speech act theory, which was developed by John Searle. Let's say Searle. Searle was one of the authors of it. Now, Littlejohn will tell you about speech act theory. That's a secondary source. If you read Searle, that's a primary source. So what Craig has done is found primary sources, put them all in one nice textbook. And so it's really pretty good. It's never existed before in the field. So this is a big deal. So we'll be looking at those primary source readings. And what you'll find sometimes is that the primary source authors explain themselves better than the secondary people do. So I have some trouble with Littlejohn at times, you know, and if I can't understand what Littlejohn is saying, I read Wikipedia or I read a primary source, and then I get it figured out. Now, so that's Bob Craig's book. And the key article in Bob Craig's book is not the first one there, but it is the number 5, Communication Theory as a Field. So that is like the core article that you're going to need to wrestle with. Some of you may have read this already. Yeah, you've read it. In intro, we might have read it. Anna, did you read this? Bob Craig's? We might have read it in intro. But every time I still reread it, and I still get more out of it every time I read it. So go back and work on it. It's the kind of thing you have to wrestle with. And for those of you who are new to grad studies and comm studies, there will be so much new language for you that you'll want to keep your Google up while you're doing it, you know, and just Google stuff and Wikipedia stuff to try to figure out what's going on here. So that's his book. Now, this is 9th edition. Go ahead.
Do you like not conceptualize it, or is it just like a higher vocabulary? That's why we need Google.
I think well, those of you who've read it, it's a lot of new language. It's a lot of new language. And I'll try to orient you to some of the concepts that he's going to be going into. I think once you get the conceptual scheme down, it flows pretty well. But if you use Griffin, you've already got a lot of it. because Griffin has restructured his book around Craig's scheme, the newer editions of Griffin. This-
Sometimes they don't explain things as they mention them in the articles. They will expect that you already know it.
They already know it, yeah. So, yeah. Now Little John and Foss, who are husband and wife, live out in New Mexico, and this is the 9th edition of this text. So this has been through. This is probably the best one that they've really improved it, and this is the first time he's co-authored it. It was always just him. Now his wife has been